Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yo, what up, It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes.
What's going on?
Welcome. You're listening to the UpNUp Podcast. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
How you doing, DJ Erm?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good, yeah.
Thank you, man. If you're tuning in right now for the first time, this podcast is essentially a platform for cultivating the culture.
Yep.
That's one.
Yep.
Number two, providing the platform for people who are living that up and up lifestyle.
Ooh.
You know, going after their goals, their visions, their dreams, letting nothing stop them from doing that.
Exactly.
And I just want to also shout out to all the listeners who've been tuning in with us so far. You know, we're 3 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4th, right?
Yeah.
Make sure, you rate, subscribe, review, give us your feedback. We'd love to, tap in and get all that. But that's not what we're here for today.
We're not.
Yeah, man. We got a special guest today, man. I told you everybody's special. Everybody's special. But, yeah, man, everybody's special. But today's guest is, I would say he's seen as a positive force in the community, a strong advocate for higher learning, youth empowerment. And I would say overall he's an agent for change, and obviously overall good guy. We got Girmay Zahilay, co-founder of Rising Leaders, Inc. in the building. Can we get a round of applause?
Y'all make me sound good.
Yeah, that's what we do. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. It's
living
good.
Good, man.
What's
good.
today? Friday? It's Friday?
Oh, yeah. TGIF.
TGIF. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So I don't know if you've seen the show, but usually we start off the show with quote of the day. My guy right here, he's like I said, he's a man of quotes.
Yeah.
He always brings them to me, and he's like, "Yo,
Yes, sir.
I got something to tell you, and it's inspiring." So what you got for us today, man?
Let's hear it.
Well, actually, ironically, this quote, I've heard you say it a couple times, before in the past.
Oh, okay.
So the quote is, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And that's by Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, that's
That's
powerful.
fire. That's fire.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
powerful.
saying it is.
And so we bring in the quotes obviously because we use them to kind of transition into our guests and their stories. And with the Rising Leaders and everything you guys are doing, I think that quote ties directly to that, right? In terms of trying to repair broken men, but more importantly, trying to touch them when they're children and getting them young, right?
Definitely.
And so for those listening, watching right now who have no idea what the hell Rising Leaders is, what would you say, or how would you describe it, and what would you say is its purpose?
Absolutely. So Rising Leaders is a 501c3 nonprofit that tries to do exactly what that quote is saying, trying to prepare the next generation of leaders. And when I think about my upbringing and maybe some people in this room's upbringing too, there's a disconnect between our parents' generations and us, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Our parents came and faced their own struggles, and they came to America, like they say, I came with like $7 in my pocket, and like a towel on my back and nothing else, and they made it. And so they have their own experiences, but those are not necessarily our experiences. Mm-hmm. We have struggles too, but it's a different kind of struggle. We grew up without much guidance because our parents either don't speak the same language as us, they didn't grow up in the same way that we did, they don't have the same cultural values as us, and so it's kind of like we've paved our own way, and unfortunately a lot of people got lost during that path.
That's a fact.
It's a fact. And Seattle from an outsider's perspective is seen as this mountaintop, it's this progressive rich city, and then you look at our communities and all the problems that the city faces are localized in our communities. If we're talking about gun violence, drug abuse, lots of issues that we know from our friends just growing up. Yeah. And part of that reason, there's a lot of reasons for it, but part of it is that we don't have the same kind of parental adult figures who understand us in our lives. So Rising Leaders aims to provide those figures through mentoring and through leadership development at the middle school level. And we chose middle school because at the middle school level, there's not that many programs that we saw. A lot of programs start in high school.
Yeah.
They try to get people prepared for college and stuff, but oftentimes that's too late.
Yeah.
Like once you hit freshman year, your grades matter.
Yeah.
Your extracurriculars matter. And if you're not in that mindset already, you can get left behind. So we try to work with them at middle school for 7th and 8th grade, do workshops with them, and provide a ramp for them into high school.
Okay.
And so that's basically what the goal is, to empower youth from underserved or low-income backgrounds so that once they start high school, they're ready to go. They're ready to run. They know what's going on, and they can unlock whatever their potential is and do what they want to do in this world.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's just establishing that foundation early on, right?
Absolutely.
And we talk about this too. We had many conversations about this in terms of you have to let kids explore in a timely manner, right? You're not supposed to rush that process for them. And so, does this kind of stem from some of your upbringing, or like, can you see yourself, or did you see yourself growing up and saying, man, I felt kind of rushed, or I wish I did have this?
Yeah, 100%. And it's weird because I don't know if you all feel this way, but you don't know what you don't have until you see what other people have. So growing up in Seattle, I went to Mercer Middle School. I went to Franklin. I grew up in all parts of the South End, Holly Park, Rainier Vista. That's where I grew up. And so everybody had the same background as me. So I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was weird that none of my parents were home ever. My parents are divorced. My mom is working two or three jobs at a time at a nursing home. Neither of my parents went to college or high school or middle school or anything like that. They came straight from Ethiopia by way of Sudan because they were refugees, and I felt like I had a normal childhood, but then I went to college and suddenly boom.
It hits
so the world hits you, right?
That's real.
How did you all like meet people in college where you're like, wow, this is what it's supposed to be like?
I think it's like that that preparation for college. I think that's what it is. Like when I got to college, I felt like, oh man, I'm here.
Yeah,
like, this is new. And then there's some others who were kind of endowed with the wisdom, and they're kind of given that, like you said, that roadmap and kind of that ramp to go in there. So they felt more comfortable when they first got there as opposed to how we would feel.
Oh yeah, and I knew it like immediately once I got to college. It's like when they don't, certain kids, I would say most of them, when they don't know something in their homework, they're calling their parents for help. If they don't have enough money in their pocket to buy something that they need, books or anything, they're calling up their parents for help. Whatever it is, that's that support system for them. And this is not a knock on our parents.
No,
like a lot of them did everything that they could, gave everything. I know damn well that my mom gave her blood, sweat, and tears to raise us, but I could never call her for help on my homework. I could never hit her up and say, I can't afford books today. So where are the kids who don't have that going to get that kind of support? And hopefully that's through people like us who grew up, who understand that background, who look like them, who can go back and say, well, I grew up, now I made it. I'm going to reach back and I'm going to help you do the same thing.
In comes rising leaders.
For real.
Rising leaders right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think, like, back when I was in middle school, like, there was really, like, nothing really like that, like that really pinpointed what you're talking about as far as rising leaders and getting me ready for high school, So when I felt like when I got to high school, it was kind of like freshman year, felt like it didn't really matter as much to me, because it's like, okay, I'm easing into it, but as opposed to like if I was ready coming in,
Yep. So, exactly.
Then that's dope though. That's a
I
great
remember
concept.
this. I remember this interesting story that's relevant. Maybe it was like 4 years ago. The Tigray Community Center came and was like, can you talk to a group of graduating high school students? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to them. But I felt like I was a little bit older, so I knew a friend who was closer to their age, who I thought could also like speak to them and speak some truth to them. So I invited this friend, and I was like, do you want to come speak to some high school students with me? And she was like, yeah, I'll come to talk to them too. So I pick her up, we go to the community center, and it's audience full of high school kids.
Yeah.
All smiling up. They look ready. They look ready. So I'm like, okay, you speak first to my friend. And she goes up, and I go to the back of the room, and I look at her, and she's not saying anything. She's like getting choked up. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I've never seen her like this before. So I'm about to go up and like help her. But then she starts talking. She looks at the kids and she says, I wish that I would have known back then what I know now. I wish I would have known back then what I know now. And what she was talking about is that when you're at that age, you don't know really that everything you're doing at that point is like a domino effect, and it affects what you're doing later. And so while she was going through middle school, she didn't know that the silly assignments she was doing were going to matter for her grades and prepare her for high school. She didn't know that high school was going to prepare her for college. So while her classmates were graduating and going off to college, she was in the same place at that point. While every little thing was happening, her friends were moving on without her. And so that's what she was talking about. And she's in a great place now. But I love that lesson that she brought in, because we have to frame it for them in a way that shows that there are consequences and what you're doing now matters.
Okay. And I think, and thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
And so I want to get into Rising Leaders. I want to get into, the building of this organization, right? I'm glad you explained you frameworked the mission and what you guys are trying to tackle. But, with this podcast, like we try to do, we try to share the stories of the people behind the movements as well, right? And what kind of led you to even create something like this? I know it wasn't just you. You have a team and a staff and stuff. But I guess, what was that defining moment for you? What was that moment where you were just like, man, I'm making this thing happen no matter what. Like, I don't care. And everybody has those ideas, but when you take it out of your head and you put it on the piece of paper and you're like, let's map it out. Yeah. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's hard to pinpoint one specific moment. Before it was an official organization, incorporated and board of directors, all that, it was just a program that we did every few months. Every few months, myself and the friends who were first a part of it we would just go to this school every couple months, and we would work with the kids. And one day I remember one of the mentors coming up to me and saying, what is our actual impact here? Because it feels like we're doing these one-time events, and how does that actually help the kids? And I remember the example that he used was, it's like those people who go to a developing country and paint a wall and take a picture to the wall that they
making
painted.
a change.
Making a change.
Yeah.
They use all the hashtags, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was offended. I was like, oh shit, is that what I'm doing?
Damn, that's crazy.
And so we decided to make it more official, make it more consistent, and we did the research about it, and it showed that mentoring is only effective if you build a relationship of trust and empathy with a kid over a sustained period of time. So going on that's when we decided, like, let's make this more consistent. Let's make this official. And I can talk about the steps that we went into that. But basically the spark was wanting this to be more effective, and also having a group of people who had the same mission. And I feel like that's probably what you all are doing too, with the UpNUp.
Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure.
Definitely. And like one thing you said was consistency. And I feel like that's way more important when it comes to like younger people, because like attention spans are like that. So definitely. I know you experienced like them probably like, you got to really capture their attention. So there are ways that you like keep you know what I mean?
What was the intentionality behind it? Like, you have to be intentional when you're working with kids, because not every kid is the same.
Yeah, it takes that word that I said before, empathy. Just, you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of whoever you're communicating with. You can't use the same language that you would use talking in this room with a middle school student. And middle school kids, that's a weird age.
Yeah,
That's like some of them look like 5-year-olds, and some of them look like they're my age.
Yeah, but what's up here is even crazier.
It's even
they
crazier.
know they know so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure that if I'm drafting the curriculum or the workshop agenda, is this going to be interactive? Is it going to be engaging? Are we going to have parts where kids are on their feet? Are we going to give them enough breaks? Are we being intentional about the language that we use, so we're not talking to them like, you know, they have advanced degrees or anything?
Yeah.
They're like 11 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just being real mindful and saying everything you do has to be toward the eye of how am I going to make this youth engaged and learn something,
Yeah.
and not necessarily get caught up in how can I sound smart or how can I make myself feel
finding
good.
that balance. Finding that balance is important, right? Because kids, you know, they look up to what's cool, right? That's what really captures them, right?
Definitely.
So, you know, when you go talk to these kids, and you're a cool guy, you know what I'm saying? but but like, how do you portray that, but at the same time not be too cool to where it's distracting from the actual mission, right?
So you're saying,
To
how do
relate
I
to
stop myself from being so swaggy?
Yeah, exactly.
That they just get
Yeah. Do you just come in there with just like, you know, suit and ties, you know, or do you come in there like casual? Like, or how is that? Because you have, like I said, you have to have that balance.
Yeah.
Because you could lose them, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You got to get them early too. That's one thing I noticed. If you go in there and you're kind of quiet and you drag on, like that sets the tone for the rest of the day. So you got to come in there high energy, but also know exactly what you want to communicate to them. Because once you start seeing them nodding off, then the next one next to is like a domino. It's just they all feel like they can not listen.
Yeah. It's like that. You're not my dad. You're not my mama. Type
Exactly,
mentality. Like, you can't tell me what to do at this point.
Exactly.
No, that's dope. That's dope. I'm also want to get into kind of the framework and kind of like building the mentors, or building the staff of mentors, I should say. I know obviously you see yourself as a mentor, but how was that recruiting mentors? Was it tough for you, or did you just kind of, you know, band together with some of your friends, close friends, colleagues? How did that work?
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we started in New York, where I was living. I was
going to get to that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
so starting it in New York, way different experience than starting it in Seattle. Actually, our first workshop in Seattle is tomorrow morning, so I told you I need to go to sleep early for that.
Yes, sir. We won't keep you up too late. Don't worry.
But the thing in New York is that we have a board of 6 people, and all of the mentors have a connection to one of us, right? They're either our friends or our coworkers or somebody in our community. And so when you have that kind of relationship already with the mentors, and they trust you a little bit already, so getting things done is easier because they give you the benefit of the doubt. So if you mess up on something or you do something that they don't like, they're like, oh, that's my homie. That's cool. Like I'll keep doing it. Starting it in Seattle here, most of the mentors, I don't know them. I just recruited by, you know, updating social media. And have you heard of the Collective? That
it's on the Slack channel.
That one.
Yeah. I'm in there.
It's
I'm not active in it though. Like when I'm in there,
bro. There's like 1,500 black people.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's wild. But so I started blasting in there, and I got some hits through there. But now what I noticed after I've recruited them is that I don't have that benefit of the doubt. They don't have a relationship with me. They don't know who I am. So it really tests your leadership skills to be able to say, okay, these people are joining this because of my effectiveness, my efficiency, my professionalism, doing what I say I'm going to do. It's not because, oh, that's the homie Girmay. It's because this is something that's legit. Yeah. So 2 different experiences there. But one thing that's consistent is that people want to help youth. This is it's like the most inspiring thing. Like no matter where, I bet I could go to Phoenix, Arizona, wherever, some random place, and I could find 30 people who want to go and work at their local school. So that's the incredible part. I don't feel like it's going to be any problem to start this in any city, wherever we are. It's just a matter of, can we be effective and professional and legitimate to the point where this is a sustained quality organization foundation, and we don't lose people because we're a mess.
No, that's real.
I think that's important.
I think because I know we were talking about it too, as far as you know, you said you have like innovative career day workshops, right? And I don't know if you remember, we had that conversation when we were talking about, you know, I used to hate that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? I hate that question. You know, it's like my first answer is like alive, right? That's my first answer. But then I'm like,
I laughed,
yeah.
and I cried a little bit to that.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. Nah, but you know, they ask you what you want to be when you grow up, and I'm like, we should change that to like, what do you want to work towards?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think with Rising Leaders, that's exactly what it is. It's like pick something and work towards it.
Absolutely.
So I guess explain a little bit more about those innovative career workshops. Do you have people come from different careers, and
for sure? So
how does that work?
That's a great question, and this is actually my favorite workshop that we do. Whenever most people do career days, the way they do it is that they invite over, let's bring an engineer, let's bring a lawyer, let's bring an artist, let's bring a doctor, let's sit them in front of the kids and let them talk about their careers.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a backwards way to do it, because that's kind of telling kids, here are the buckets that you can join. Now fit your interests into those buckets.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And it kind of narrows their scope a little bit. So the way we do it, we turned it on its head. We said, we're not going to start off telling them about careers. We're going to start off having them explore their interests and their passions, so that afterwards, once we've already explored that, then we can go and we can tie those interests and passions into a career. So in that way, they can see that your career is supposed to fit to your passion and not the other way around. You don't have to fit your passion into a bucket. So
that's real.
And the kids love that, because I don't think they know necessarily that their jobs are supposed to be based on their interests and their passions.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's
did
not at
y'all
all.
know that?
Nah.
Not at all.
All I
like,
knew,
you know, I think that's important though. That's a good way to go about it, because then it shows the kids like they matter first. Like
Absolutely.
you know, if like
It's
how you
about me.
said, if you just sit them down in front of people and they're talking, then they might just be like, well, what I'm thinking I want to do doesn't fit any of these. So I'm like, whatever. They're like disconnected after that. So
how many of
Yeah,
y'all
that's
were
dope.
just like, all you heard was, you got to be a doctor?
man, bro,
Yeah.
like engineer, doctor,
Engineer,
whatever,
doctor,
or-
lawyer.
That's it.
I'm like, damn, there's only 3 options.
There's 3 jobs in the world.
Damn. Like,
That's
yo,
it.
Well, I'm trying to hoop. I want to hoop, bro.
I can do other things, you know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm glad you kind of brought that up though, because we haven't even talked about your personal journey, right? Through academia and what you were able to accomplish, right? Because you are well accomplished in that realm, I would say. So take us through kind of your journey through college, and you know the steps you took to where you're at now, right? If you could.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try, but my story is basically a story of a kid who didn't have those foundations and those guidances that I was talking about before. All I heard growing up is, oh, you're doing well in school, you got to be a doctor. You got to be a doctor. And that's all I had to go by. So I get to college, and the first thing I do, let me take biochemistry and biology and chemistry.
Wait, so what school did you go to?
I was at Stanford.
Okay, let them know.
okay.
All right, let the people know.
Yep.
Okay, cool,
Yep.
cool.
And so I took all those classes in my very first semester. And so like 2 years, I'm just doing classes that I don't like, that are super hard, and that didn't let me explore anything else because they're so demanding.
Yeah.
And the summer after either my freshman year or my sophomore year, I did this medical program at Duke University.
Okay.
And they let you shadow doctors as part of that medical program.
Wow.
And I remember going through the hospital, everybody looked just tired, and I didn't want to be there. But they had us do this thing where we all went into a room where a woman was giving birth. And and so she's giving birth in front of all of us, and all the people around me who actually wanted to be doctors are like, wow, the miracle of life, this is beautiful. And I'm in the back literally about to throw up. Like, it's just
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. So they just have a woman on display giving birth?
full on display.
That's supposed to be an intimate moment, I thought.
No, look.
Wow.
It's the human body. I wasn't like getting sick because of the baby or the woman. It's just like I don't like to see body parts and I didn't realize that until that moment. Like here I am taking 2 years of all these terrible classes to get toward a goal of like that's the goal, and I'm like that's not for me though.
Yeah, that might have been the birth of Rising Leaders, right?
You're good, Erm. You're
wow.
good.
Good one,
I see
bro.
what you did there.
That was a
I
good
see
one.
what you the whole UpNUp podcast led to that moment right there.
Wow, you said the birth. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
the birth and the death of my pursuit toward being a doctor.
Okay.
But I still kept taking the classes for some reason because I didn't know any better. But my senior year came, and I was like, man, this is really right around the corner. I have to take the MCAT. I have to do all these other medical programs and classes, and med school. I don't know if y'all know, but it doesn't end. It's I'm 31 now, and my med school friends are still in school.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long road.
Yeah, they're the only ones still there, and they love it though, so that's good.
You just knew it wasn't for you,
me.
and
Exactly.
that is a very brave thing to do though, for a lot of people, right? To tell themselves, man, I know this might be the safest route, and this might be what society or my family or whoever wants me to do, but you told yourself, this isn't for me.
Yep.
And then, so what happened after that? So that transition to what?
Yeah, so after that, my senior year, it's time to choose what I'm going to do after. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help low-income, poor people of color. Generally, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I spoke to a friend who had done this fellowship program, and it sounded amazing. So the fellowship program, it's called the Emerson Fellowship. And the first 6 months, you spend anywhere around the United States doing ground level work where you're interacting directly with clients who are experiencing poverty. So you're either working at a soup kitchen or a food bank or a homeless shelter, these direct service type of organizations. The second 6 months, you go to Washington, D.C., and you do policy level work around those same issues. And so it's a dope way to marry the top-down, bottom-up ways of creating change. So my first 6 months, they put me in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and I was doing community health type of work in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And then the second 6 months, I went to DC and I did policy level work around community health stuff. So it was a great experience. And while I was in DC, everybody seemed to have their JD. Everybody seemed to be a lawyer down there. And I emailed like 40 lawyers. I had coffees with them, and I was trying to figure out, is this the path that I want to pursue? And a lot of them were like, no, don't do it.
Yeah. It's not what you think.
It's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't have guidance again. So I was just like, this sounds cool though. Like, you have flexibility, you can do policy type of work. And it's just like you get to learn a whole bunch of stuff and open up your options, and everybody in DC seems to have it. So I want to do it too. So I applied to law school. I went to University of Pennsylvania in Philly. And it was hard. Law school is really hard, but it was super rewarding because this is another lesson I learned. If kids have the opportunity to experience something before they get there, they know how to be successful once they actually get there. So because I had gone through college, I knew the lessons that I had to apply in law school. I knew not to join 100 different organizations like I did in college. I knew to focus on my grades in my first couple years to get a hold of it. I knew to take it easy on the course load, and all these little tips and lessons that I could have had beginning in college if somebody would have told me. I got to apply there, so I did much better in law school than I did in college. And law school was a great experience because of that. I got great internships. I got to work in London and New York. I got to intern at the White House one semester and like meet the president. It was just the best.
Wow.
There's a lot of cool things happening.
Isn't that crazy how things just go from 0 to 100? Like, you know what I mean? But when you tap into your own like pure potentiality, like you're like, yo, I know this is what's good for me. Look where it takes you, right? And I think that's a very powerful message for people who are watching and listening to go after whatever it is that's just brewing inside them, you know what I mean? And taking that chance. Because at the end of the day, when you're living in your truth and you're grinding, it's purposeful. It feels good. Regardless of the ups and downs, it feels good.
Absolutely. I bet the UpNUp doesn't feel like work to you, but you're
not
putting
at
in hundreds of hours.
Not at all. Not at all. But you live what you preach, at the end of the day, and that's what it's about.
Exactly.
And so thank you for giving us that.
Of course.
That's an amazing story in itself. So I mean, now you got New York, right?
Yep.
You got Seattle.
Yep.
what's next, man? Where else are we taking this thing? Because I think, you know, that's the plan, right? You want to expand?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. We want to expand, but we want to do it in a controlled way, because organizations like this can really fall apart. And this is a unique organization at this stage in that no one is getting paid. It's volunteer based from top to bottom. So when you remove the financial incentive for people to come back and do things, it's purely the experience that they're coming for. So if the experience is not top notch and, like I said before, effective and professional and legitimate, people are not going to come back. And it's harder and harder to control the mission and the product when things are really spread out, and you don't know person X over there in city Y that's like not your friend. And that's I was watching this YouTube channel, have you heard of the Golden Circle? This guy gives this TED talk. But he also talks about this curve where organizations, as they get bigger, the original mission starts to get lost because it's spread so thin.
Wow.
So the original people who started it, like you two know everything there is about UpNUp. You know the mission. You know why you're doing this. But if it gets really big, you're going to have to find a way to convey that same passion to somebody who you don't have a relationship with, who's across the country. And when they don't have that same drive
Isn't
as
that
you.
crazy? Because you know that, you know, not to kind of touch on it, but like that's kind of, if you look at our logo, right? The roots do symbolize that staying rooted, staying true to why you even started in the first place. And regardless of how many levels of success you elevate and get to, you always got to reflect back to why you even started. Yes, sir. There you go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You say that. You just do that up for us. Slam that shit down, bro.
That's what I'm here for, bro. I throw alley-oops to my boys.
Sure, man. We got to throw alley-oops in the form of support, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
So yeah, the goal is definitely to grow. We have DC in the works right now. I have a really good friend down there who's legit and passionate. And so it's easy when you have people who are close to you to go ahead and do that, who you trust. But the rest of it, like honestly, I do get hits from people who want to like start chapter. I've gotten hits for San Francisco and Philadelphia, and it's so inspiring to know that people are out there and want to work in their local communities like this. It's just we have to be controlled about it, or else everything can fall apart.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to be patient, right?
Yeah.
Well, we always say this, set your pace. Don't react to the
react
race.
to the race.
Right? Yeah, man.
Quote of the day.
Yes, another one.
Quote of the day.
We got two quotes.
Another one.
Another one. I think that's essentially what it is. Like, regardless of, I'm sure you guys got very, very big plans, right? You've been brainstorming how you want to expand, but at the same time, you got to be in the present.
Yep.
Right, and know where you're at, and at the end of the day, be diligent in what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
I kind of, my bad, Robbie, to cut you off, but I kind of want to, there's people probably watching this that probably want to know how to be mentors.
Yeah.
Like how to sign up for that. So how does that process kind of happen?
So this summer, I'm going to be recruiting mentors for Seattle again, because right now we're working with one school, Aki Kurosi, in South Seattle.
Shout out Aki, that was my middle school.
Shout out. Did you go to Aki? Yeah, okay, dope. So I want to start working with my middle school, Mercer, on Beacon Hill too, and I've been in touch with the principal, and I've been in touch with the principal at Dimmitt Middle School in Renton, and so we are going to need a bunch more mentors, and so this summer I'll probably blast on social media and the collective, and if y'all want to post for me.
Oh, definitely, man.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to ask.
You didn't even have to ask, bro. I'm be real.
All right, good, dope. So I can send y'all the link, and they can apply through there.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So if anybody wants to know, though, it's a 2-year curriculum. So it is a 2-year commitment. It's once a month on a Saturday from 9:30 to 1 p.m. For the whole school year. So there's 7 workshops in a school year and 2 school years that we work, all of 7th grade and all of 8th grade. And hopefully you'll be a resource to the kids for life, when they graduating high school and they need a letter of recommendation. Oh, let me hit up I can get a recommendation.
No, that's powerful.
What it's about, man.
That's powerful, man. I think like I said, man, an agent for change, man, and a positive force. And it's not just you, right? But you're here today representing something greater than all of us, And so, yeah, I mean, if you want to give any shout outs to some of your team members.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know this is the platform to do it,
Bro, this would not be done without our board of directors. We have Harya, Mandir, Sade, Obina, Hiwate. Those are our board members.
Yep.
And then we have in Seattle our program directors, our Katrina, Dominique, and Morgan at Aki. There'll be more at other schools. Our social coordinators in Seattle are Shelby and Barb, and then just dozens and dozens of dope mentors who give up their Saturdays, like half their Saturdays.
Yeah.
They could be at brunch drinking mimosas every Saturday, but instead they're at these schools.
You do
working
that
with
Sunday.
The kids, so.
Do that shit on Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah, same Sunday, unless you go to church.
Unless you go to church.
But you can go after church.
Yeah,
let's not get into that. Man, teach his own.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, all right. Well, I think you know what's coming. I got a question for you, and this is usually kind of this is a question I always
something crazy.
Yeah. We got a crazy question. I'm playing.
We don't do that yet. Nah, but this is a question I always ask all of our guests because I think it gives you a chance to just speak volumes to everything you've done up until this point and will continue to do. So what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up?
That's good. Maybe expectations. For me, it's. Am I allowed to explain it? Or
Oh no,
Go ahead. Yeah,
you better.
Yeah, I just think about our parents' generation, my mom specifically, who came into circumstances that I can't imagine how she thrived in and how all of our parents thrived in. Just think about going to like Austria or Russia or something where you don't speak the language, you have literally no money, and you got kids with you. And it's just like, okay, I'm about to just come here, I'm about to work, and I'm about to send my kids to college. Like, it just blows my mind. So for me, the expectation is that we're going to take that and we're going to just make this place our own. And I've been feeling so inspired by all the things that are popping up in Seattle right now of people making this place our own because of the expectation that we're going to take that baton from our parents and make this place our own. So, I'm seeing the UpNUp and this Instagram page, Black Seattle, and just everybody's doing, like, my brother has Trap Sundays, which is just make this place our own. We're not just visitors. This is our city now.
We've been here.
And the forces are trying to drive us out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of forces at play, but the more we can just put our roots down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna create a GIF out of that.
I know. We got you, bro.
Yeah. Nah, man. Expectations. Seriously, we all gotta set them, and we gotta meet them too, right?
Yeah,
that's a great one. Yeah, man. And I just want to thank you, man, for being a guest on our show and showing up and speaking and telling your story and hopefully inspiring others to write their own stories, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Yeah.
Y'all are really good at this. I've been seeing. I've been watching.
Just trying to get better, man. Yep. Every day. But yeah, man, much success to you with Rising Leaders, everything else you got going on, and I know you have much more in store for us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. And you are officially a member of the UpNUp. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.